Why you don't need more leads to make more sales or profits. This is part one of at least a two-part series. There may be more as I go through this particular conversation that has popped up as I have been pondering on why why so many brilliant, amazing female entrepreneurs can get stuck when they are trying to kind of break through the next level and the next level and the next level. So, if you're brand new to me, my name is Susan McVeigh, and I am a business sales and wealth strategist and a kingdom business builder, married mama of two. Too often, what I hear, and this has been across the board, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out, if you're making your first 3, 4, 5, 6 figures, 7, or even 8 figures. The number one trap that I keep hearing expert female entrepreneurs talk about is more leads. Now, in and of themselves, that is not necessarily a bad thing, but here's why that can be a trap. And more importantly, I want us to connect the dots between what we're doing on the front end with our marketing, our lead generation, and who we're attracting into our audience, attracting into our world, and then looking at how does that translate into actual paying clients and customers, so sales, aka cash, and more importantly, like what happens once you actually get the clients, right? Not just on the service side, but on the internal side of your business. What happens with that money? What happens with the amount that you've been able to accumulate and hopefully turn into profit and turn into something that's going to enhance your life? Because ultimately, that's why we're doing this, right? At least I hope this is why we're doing this. I know that you love what you do, but ultimately, if you do not make enough sales and if you do not make enough profit, which is way more important than the sales part, frankly, you will have to keep working harder and harder and harder, right? So, what is it about this thought that we need to have more leads? We need more people coming into our funnels. We need bigger audiences and a bigger following and bigger email lists. And I'm not saying not to have those things. I'm not saying not to do all the front end marketing in order for you to be able to attract who it is that you want to work with. But I want to shift the paradigm, especially if you are hitting a plateau, right? So let me know in the comments if this kind of describes you. Are you looking for more leads? Are you right now thinking that in order for you to be able to make more sales, to have more profits in your business, that you need to generate more leads? Now, let me be very clear on who I'm speaking to. If you already have an existing audience base, even if it's 100, 200, 300 people, even if it's in the thousands of people, let me tell you, I had a client who came to me and she had an audience of 80,000 people. And yet she was struggling to crack 5 figures consistently in her business. Why? Well, simply because she believed that the people in her audience were not the right people. Now, that may or may not have been the case, but frankly, she had not done enough of the actual sales and marketing activities to see whether or not that was even the case. The second piece was she assumed that people knew what it was that she had to offer, and so she actually wasn't selling. She was putting out a lot of content. She was giving out a lot of value. She was being helpful, but it actually wasn't translating into dollars and cents for her business, which ultimately impacted her ability to live her life and to keep doing what she wanted to do. So, if this describes you at all, where you already have an existing audience, whether it's an email list, a social media following, some sort of community, if you've had paying clients in the past and you're wondering now, why do I not have more sales, more profits, more customers? And you're going about it thinking, okay, let me just work on the front part. Let me get more leads. Let me attract more people. I want us to pause and to just stop for a moment, because when I work with clients, and this is part one of at least two parts, so we're going to come back tomorrow and talk about this a little bit more, is there may be 1, 2, or 3 things that you could do immediately that could help you to generate more sales, more profits without having to look for more leads today, right? So again, I'm very specific. If you already have paying customers or clients in the past, if you already have an existing email list, if you already have an audience, and it can be tiny. Let me tell you, the very first time that I made online sales, now I had a 20-year track record of making offline sales in the realm of like hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So sales is sales is sales. And people are ultimately more similar than we're dissimilar, which is why it doesn't really matter what your niche is. I'm going to try to keep this as agnostic as possible, which means it doesn't matter what the mechanism is. It doesn't matter if you're selling via email or social media or video or on the phone or in person, in your local communities or in the broader, like I sell to everybody around the world. Okay. At the end of the day, what's really important is that you know what you're selling and it actually provides a real result, right? So you're not selling snake oil. Okay. And chances are, if you do that, you wouldn't have stayed here long enough for me to explain this to you in the first place. Hey, Brianka, thanks for joining. So here's the three things that I see most often happening. If you already have an existing audience, if you already have an existing following, if you already have somebody, and it doesn't have to be a huge amount, because when I first started in an online space, I had a list of less than 100 people, 77 people to be exact, by the time I made my first multiple 5 figures online. Now, granted, I had 2 decades of experience of marketing and selling and helping people get results, right? So even though I was new to the online space, I knew nothing about online marketing at the time. This was now almost a decade ago, right? So I definitely have upskilled my skills, and I know what I'm talking about now in the online space as well with online marketing and sales strategies. What I want you to understand is that number was very unusual, but I didn't know that. I didn't know any differently. And so I didn't really think anything of it. So sometimes not knowing what you don't know is a blessing in disguise. But at the same time, we want to make sure that you have the tools, the skills, and the knowledge necessary in order to make the things that you have, right? The resources that you already have, that those can be translated directly into dollars and cents for your business, ultimately helping you to help more clients. So number one is you may be ignoring your existing leads. So if you already have 10 people, 100 people that have put up their hand, whether it's on your email list, whether it's in your network, whether it's on social media, and you realize that, hey, these are people that have actually volunteered, right? Like, you didn't coerce them, you didn't force them, you didn't go out and start pounding their face and saying, hey, get on my list, you need to follow me on social media, just like I've described here, because you can see a banner right underneath here that says like, subscribe, and share the show. Because if you're finding value out of that, then why not? Some of you are going to, and some of you are not. I'm not going to beat myself up over the fact that some of you are not. I'm going to focus on the ones that have decided and voluntarily said, hey, that's me, Susan. I want your help. I'm interested in what you have to offer. Now, some of you have worked with me. Some of you have already been clients and will continue to be clients, and some have not. Ignoring your existing leads, the people that have already said, hey, I'm interested, but maybe I'm just not ready yet. 3%, only 3% of your market is ready to buy. That's what's called your hot leads. So oftentimes we can market a message to our hottest leads. And I encourage you to do that, because when you do that, you are incentivizing those people and encouraging them because of your specificity, because of your messaging, because of your positioning, because of your pricing, because of the offers that you're creating. You're inviting them into a conversation where they are ready to buy. You definitely want to continue to do that. But when you focus on those people, right, and you exclusively only work with those people, meaning you forget about the other 97% that are in your market right now that have already said, hey, I want to know what you have to offer. And you mistakenly think of them as tire kickers or freebie hunters. And there is a very distinct way to distinguish between the two, which I'm not going to get into today. But what I want you to understand is that if people have volunteered, right? Like they have said, hey, I want to know what you have to offer. And now you are not actually telling them how to continue to work with you such that at the time that they're ready, because that could be in an hour, right? It could be 3 hours. It could be, sorry, my door just opened because it's super windy and I had the windows open in case you might hear that bang. I might have to close that. Give me 1 second. Hashtag real life. Okay, so where was I? Don't ignore the people who are already interested in you and your offers. What you want to think about is if 3% are ready to buy, you definitely want to talk about why people are going to buy, right? And allowing people to identify that I am ready. These are things that I am struggling with. How do I work with you? Okay, great. Because they're going to move very quickly. Now, the other piece is you can't forget about the 97%, and you want to still encourage them that when they're ready to be one of the 3%, that there's ways for you to help them. But you also don't want to forget that they're in your audience. You don't want to keep going after new people without actually saying, hey, I know that you're already here and I'm ready for you whenever you're ready, because you might just have had something come up in your life. You may have had a sick child or a sick family member. You may have an unexpected expense or something that's come up that all of a sudden has meant that you have to put away or put to the side some of the things that you actually wanted to spend time on, right? You may have decided, you know what? It's a beautiful summer and I actually want to spend more time with my family. I thought I was going to have more time to put towards A, B, and C, but right now, it's not actually the main thing, right? It is still important, but the timeline has been moved. And so then maybe they're going to be ready in the fall. And that's okay. But you don't want to completely eliminate those folks and make them feel bad because they're not ready to buy, which I find a lot of times people are trying to guilt people into saying, hey, like if you don't want to be on my list. And I will say, I've done it because I listened to mentors who I thought knew better than me when, frankly, I knew better. That's not throwing shade on them because everybody's at a different stage and place in their lives, in their learning, in their evolution. But given my background, my history, my experience with working with hundreds of thousands of people, frankly, I knew better, right? And so I didn't trust myself in that moment. And I had given them a lot of control and power over dictating the direction of my business. And as a result, I bought into this lie, which is why I can share this with you, right? That even though at the beginning of my business, I knew differently, I experienced differently, the number and the data demonstrated that what I was doing was working. I fell into the lie that more is better. There goes the door again. I'm just going to ignore it. So if it bangs, excuse me. And to focus on quality over quantity, and you can have both, right? You can have both. But when we focus on quantity over quality, everything is going to suffer. So don't ignore your existing leads. So 3% ready to buy, 97% are still in your ecosystem, and it is your job to tell people why they should buy and when they should buy, because sometimes people don't know what they don't know and they don't realize that you actually can help them. So here's how you'll know. If you have people right now that you have spoken to or you know you could help them, and you discover that, hey, they just bought from somebody else who does something very similar to me, or it is something that I actually can help them with. But the only reason why they bought there is because they didn't realize that's what I do. That means that you have not been doing number two, okay? Because these are connected. So if you have people in your audience, and I guarantee every time I've done this exercise with clients and would-be clients, this is the opportunity. So you are leaving money on the table simply because you're allowing the stories in your own mind to get to you, to stop you from doing the actions and the activities that you know actually generate results. Sales and business, it is a contact sport. It is a full contact sport. And that means that you need to be out on the field playing the game. You can't be in it like in the bleachers. You can't just be watching and just formulating and theorizing and planning and preparing, but never actually doing what you've planned and prepared for. You have to put the wheels in motion. And yeah, sometimes you're going to get a little bloody. It's just like playing any contact sport. There are going to be times where you're on the field and you get bumped and bruised, or your knee's going to get bloody because you skidded. I would far rather that you actually learn from that experience, get back up, and then realize, look, I'm never going to do that again. Or, hey, that wasn't so bad. Because the first time that you do something, it's always going to be the worst. Does this make sense? Okay. So the second piece of this, because there's one, two, or three things that clients are doing time and time again. So number one, we already discussed, which is you're ignoring your existing leads because you've bought into the lie that if somebody doesn't buy right away, that they are not going to buy from you. No, that's not the case. It's either not right now or not this thing, right? Not this thing. So there could be something else that they want to buy from you, but they're just not quite sure, or it's just not the right time, which is fine. But the second piece of this, which we just talked about or led into, which is that you're not selling enough. And I know that this is going to bring up all kinds of gunk and all kinds of, really? Like, but Susan, how much is too much? Frankly, if you know that the thing that you do changes lives, like if you are, let's use like a super noble profession that most of my clients, I have not had the privilege yet of having a brain surgeon or an oncologist, right? So where you legitimately, you are changing lives, right? Like we don't have to argue that if somebody is a brain surgeon, the thing that they do, which is perform surgery on brains, is life-changing. It is something that requires a lot of skill and expertise that they have gone to school for, that they are qualified for, and that people pay a lot of money, right? People pay a lot of, and they will wait. They will wait to get the right person. So if a brain surgeon suddenly decided, I'm just not going to show up, I'm not going to operate on that next person because I've already done too much brain surgery, right? I'm not going to tell people that I'm the best brain surgeon. I'm not going to put out the reports and the different types of data. I'm not going to support science because I'm already good. I know what I'm doing, right? Like other people don't need to know what I'm doing. Imagine how many fewer lives would get saved simply because that brain surgeon is thinking, I don't need to do this anymore. Like, I'm going to do the work, but I don't need to tell people that I'm doing the work. I'm just going to keep being a brain surgeon. Most of the best brain surgeons in the world, honestly, are also good at selling themselves. They have to be because that's part of the job, right? They have to tell people what they're doing. They have to talk about new techniques and new technologies and the cutting edge of science. And they build their brand and their reputation so that other people want to learn from them so that they can share their information, but also so that patients come, right? That's how they make money. And yet nobody in the world is thinking, well, that's a terrible thing for that brain surgeon to do that, for that, cancer specialist to do that. So you may not think that the thing that you do is at the level of being a brain surgeon or the top leading, cancer specialist in the world. But what if it actually is? What if the thing that you're doing actually is at that level for the people that you do it for? Imagine that you can help that person right now that is sitting at home watching on YouTube, right? Because that's where we are right now, or on their computer screen, on wherever it is, that they're sitting and they're thinking, oh, I wish blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that you do, right? I'm struggling with whatever it is that you help them with. And because you think that you have been selling too much already, that you simply are not sharing what it is that you do, And that is the answer that they're looking for. How dare us, right? How dare us? Because that is a life that you are not going to be able to touch. That is a life that you are not going to be able to transform. People are busy. And we already know, based off of the algorithms and the way that technology moves, even inside of your email inboxes. I mean, do you remember the last email that you read today? How long ago was that? It could have been 10 minutes ago. And you might go, honestly, I don't really remember, right? But the ones that you do remember, why? Right? And maybe you are that person. Maybe you are that voice for that individual that is looking for something today that you have available. Even if it's not a paid offer, that's okay, right? Because again, talk about number one, which is don't ignore your existing leads. They're already in your ecosystem. Maybe you can bring a smile to their face. Maybe you can remind them that you're still somebody that is cheering on their behalf or has the skill sets, the knowledge, the experience, the wisdom to be able to guide them, even if it's just a little tiny baby step from where they are today, right? That if you aren't selling enough, that you aren't informing people about what it is that you do and how you can transform their lives, that it's not just you that misses out, it is the person that you help that's missing out. The algorithm, by nature of the algorithm, like any social media platform, a tiny little percentage. Like if this is your entire social media following, like there's a tiny slice of that pie. I think it's less than 10% that ever sees any one individual post. So if one individual post falls flat, don't get defeated. Just know that that's the rules of that game, right? That not all of your emails are going to land in the inbox. And even if they land in the inbox, not everybody's going to read it. How do you know? By looking at your open rates, right? So I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but I'm making the dots connect for you so that you understand the importance that it is your job and responsibility, knowing that this is how the business world works, that the social media platforms you don't own, so you don't get to say how many people get to see your posts. Your emails, you don't own. And so you do, well, let me backtrack. You own your email list, but you don't own the email system. So you don't control whether or not people read the emails. You have to still own the responsibility of saying, how do I refine my message? How do I talk about what it is that I do in a way that arouses curiosity, that invokes some emotion, that allows people to go, hey, that was a different way of me thinking about something that I already maybe suspected or knew or didn't know about at all. And as a result, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to start looking for those emails. I'm going to start, circling them or starring them and putting them into my like preferred email folder, so that every time I see Susan's name or insert your name, I'm going to start reading them, right? Because that's how we engage the people that we already have in a way that allows them to feel like I know what I'm talking about because I care about you and I know what you're dealing with. I know the conversations that you're having when you're all by yourself like this. And it seems like I'm a fly on the wall. The algorithm and the inboxes are full. But that means now more than ever, you should be selling more. You should be talking about what you do more. You should be engaging the people that you want to help and serve more, not from a place of scarcity and not from a place of burnout. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that if you knew that what you do changes lives, would you show up differently? Would you talk differently? Would you speak differently about what it is that you have? Would you be unapologetic about giving your offers, inviting people to work with you, and letting them know how you can help them? Not just free, but also on the paid side, right? Would you be brave and bold and courageous and stand in the power of what it is that you do in being able to articulate that in such a way that it moves people? Not everybody, because again, we know that not everybody's going to be ready to move. That's okay. right? So when you set your mind at ease and you say, hey, I already know that the majority of people are not going to be ready. That's why I call this out. I know that the majority of people, you're not ready. That's okay. Stick around. And at some point, if you're ready, I'm more than grateful, privileged, honored to be able to work with you. But if this is all that we get, that's okay, right? Because I'm looking for the ones that do want my help, that are like, I want to get to the next level and I want to keep moving. And I know that I need help and support. And this all lines up with stuff that I already know, or I already understand, or I conceptually get, but nobody has been able to articulate this in a way that actually makes me feel like I can do this. And now I'm validated in the things that I have experienced, such that I want to make a change. Because if you're not ready to make a change, then you're not going to work with anybody, let alone me. And so, I mean, that's just a fact, right? So don't let your fear of coming across as spammy or sleazy, or, I sound like a broken record. You should sound like a broken record, because the things that you talk about, you know so well that it's going to feel boring to you. That's the point. Businesses should be boring. Your excitement should be gained from other parts of your life. Your business can be exciting, but if you constantly are trying to inject like more excitement than necessary into your business, you're taking more risk. And that means that you're setting yourself up for failure. That's a story for another day. We're not going to get to that today. So let's get on to number 3, which is no clear pathway. And that means that oftentimes what ends up happening is that you're so focused on, hyper focused almost on, there's no clients, there's not enough, there's, these big goals, and I don't know how to get there. That at the end of the day, you are manifesting the very thing that you are worried about the most. And if you, in fact, just had more clarity, because God does not walk in confusion, He is not the author of confusion. So anytime that you're confused, I want you to stop and pause, because it's an opportunity for you to get clear. And it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate the clarity that's required for the people that you serve, your audience, your clients, your would-be clients, to also get clear. If you're not clear on how you help people, start there. But chances are you've already helped people, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't be on here. You wouldn't be looking for more sales and more profits if you did not already have some kind of client base to begin with. The second piece of this is, if you already have customers in the past or in the present and you want more of them, there is a clear pathway that people have followed, right? There is a clear pathway that people have followed. Now it is your responsibility to understand that better than your clients. You need to go backwards, however many steps that are required in order for you to know exactly how people go from where they are right now, which is ideally when you start helping them, right? Like when you start talking to people and you're talking about the things that you help them with, that's where you start, all the way through to all the different pieces of how you help people, right? Sometimes we describe this as customer journey. And I find sometimes the customer journey can be super broad, because we're often talking about things from somebody just stumbled upon you and has no idea what it is that you do. Again, you can start there, but that journey is going to be very long. It is going to be very long. So if you want more sales, what you want to think about is, how do you create more people that want to buy? And you already have buyers, start there. How did that person come to you when they bought? And it doesn't matter what they bought. What made them buy that thing? Right? Because I guarantee you, there was a pathway. There was a step-by-step process that they walk themselves through if you don't already have one. And if you have one, then focus on the pathway. Get more people into the pathway, right? I want to think about, and this is going to be a little bit of a kind of weird, gruesome, this is the best story that I could think of right now off the top of my head, which is Hansel and Gretel, right? Hansel and Gretel, when they were being coerced, tricked, by the evil witch in the forest. I mean, she wanted more children. So guess what she used? She used a candy house. And in order to get kids to the candy house, she didn't use chicken and dumplings. She didn't use a beautiful fresh green salad. She didn't use, boiled eggs. She used candy because she had a candy house. So, in order for her to attract the kids to the candy house, she would leave candies. Simple, right? The example that I'll give you from my business, the number one thing that I started with, because I am a business sales and wealth expert, right? That I wanted to help people with was to make more sales. Exactly what I put on here: make more sales, make more profits. Now, I will tell you that one of my 7-figure plus mentors said, "Susan, nobody wants more profits. Stop talking about profits." And again, I overrode that and said, "Okay," or I allowed her to override me because she wasn't concerned about profits, even though she had made 7 figures in her business, because she didn't have the kind of business background that I did. She didn't have the financial background that I did. So I say that because somebody on here is thinking, well, somebody somewhere told you something and it made you second guess yourself. Don't second guess yourself. I want you to think for yourself always. Does this resonate for me? Right? What I share with you, it may or may not. I'm okay with that, because for the people where it does resonate, you're going to reach out and you're going to want my help and you're going to work with me and we're going to get you spectacular results, because that's been my track record and the track record for the clients that come to me. You're good and you go from good to great, great to amazing, and amazing to spectacular, and so on and so forth, right? Will you get there on your own? Sure you will, because I have faith in you as a wonderful human being that God created, that you can do all things. So if we go through and look at the very first pathway that I created, I wanted clients to make more sales. And as I was listening to what they were struggling with the most, it was objections, right? That they were having these conversations with people and they kept saying, "I can't afford it." Yeah, that sounds great, but, right? So they kept hearing all of these yeah buts, yeah buts, yeah buts, and it was very defeating for them, as you can imagine. Maybe it has been for you. And so I said, okay, the main program that I am building, creating, and going to offer is my Sell with More Ease. It is the exact structure, system, process, methodology, and framework that I've used for 2 decades in my career, helping hundreds, if not thousands, of staff and clients that have been able to go through and sell hundreds of millions of dollars in a very non-traditional way, right? In finance, which is not known for being salesy, right? Now, because this was the offer, because this was the end result, this is what I wanted people to buy, I needed to give them a congruent pathway, right? And so I knew, okay, if this is what they're struggling with, they won't be able to buy this unless they know that they can overcome objections, unless they know that this is possible for them to do and they are aligned to how I teach this, right? Because I have a very specific way. And so the very first offer that I created, that was a free offer, had more than 100 people put up their hands. And I didn't build my email list, although I should have, because I didn't have the tech, right? So I didn't worry about the tech. I said, listen, let me just help the people. Let me just validate and make sure that I know that this is actually going to help the people. And so that's what I created. It was my turn, I can't afford it, into sign me up. It was a free resource. It's still on my website. You can go to the resource section and you can go and grab that. And immediately on the second part of that, I gave people, here is a solution, right? Because I didn't have the full meal deal up yet. I didn't have the full program created yet, at least not in the technology. I had already created it and honed it through 2 decades of experience. But in the online space, I needed to put it into an online platform, and that part I hadn't done yet. So I was able to quickly whip up something that would meet in the middle and allow people to go from, hey, I just got this free resource, 3 strategies, 3 actual things that I could use on the very next conversation that I have with a client or a customer, and get them to at least tell me why they're saying I can't afford it. And they were able to use, and it made sense for them. So even if they didn't have a call booked, people would read that and they go, yep, she knows what she's talking about. I know that this could help me. I want her help. Let me book a call with her. And that booked my calendar full of people to the point where I had a wait list. Okay. One strategy, one offer, one focus. It can be that simple, right? It can be that simple. Now, do I help clients with much more than just that one piece? Yeah, absolutely. But I know all the pieces that fit into the puzzle such that I can quickly identify, where are you? Is your messaging compelling? Do you have a solid offer? Are you struggling with your pricing? Right? Do you need to make more sales? Do you have an issue with your profit? Do you need to hire people now? Do you know what to do with that money? Because I'm going to tell you, it breaks my heart that mentor who told me nobody cares about profits. She worked super hard, made $1 million in a launch with a lot of profit, but then she ended up spending that because she couldn't hold that money. She wasn't ready to actually keep the money. She was so used to working so hard and having to continue to work so hard that she couldn't identify with somebody who actually was wealthy, had riches beyond her imagination, in a way that she could just rest and relax and actually have that money now create money for her. So she spent it all and then had to go back and keep making more money. So things have shifted now, but at the time, I didn't feel qualified to help somebody like that, which was a lie. Right? Some of you might be watching this right now and you might be thinking, well, I can't help that person because A, B, C, D, E, they're more accomplished. They have this or that, but they're not the expert in what it is that you do, right? What it is that you do. And so if you have a clear pathway, it can be that simple. I've had clients that went into that turn, I can't afford it, into sign me up, purchase the free, purchase the resource that's on the next page because it's not free, right? It was a special bonus offer. And from there, then went on to spend thousands of dollars with me in subsequent offers and opportunities. Okay, right? But the vast majority did not buy right away. I had a client who waited, oh gosh, almost 18 months to the day from when we first had a conversation. She said, yeah, I know I need your help. But it wasn't bad enough for her. It wasn't painful enough for her yet. She didn't want the outcome more than she was attached to her current state. And you can't force somebody out of that. They have to decide for themselves. But they have to know that you're ready and willing and able to help them when they're ready and willing and able to get your help. Because until that happens, you're going to try and force them to do something that they're not equipped to do, right? Don't waste your time there. Focus on the people who are ready to buy. Focus on the ones who are ready and willing and able, and they want to go, because that's the 3%. It is a small percentage of your market, but they are there. And when you speak to that 3%, the ones who are waiting in the wings, at some point, that is going to tip over for them. But you don't control that because you don't control them, right? If you stop selling because 97% of your market, 97% of your audience, 97% of your email list don't buy when you put out stuff, you're going to get defeated. You have to keep doing it, knowing that message that you are here to share, above and beyond what it is that you sell, is going to change and shift lives just by you sharing it. That is the work, right? And then you have clarity on how you're leading and guiding people to go from, I need what you have to I've bought it and I'm going to buy over and over and over and over again. Okay? So you don't need more leads. You need the right leads at the right time in the right place, and for you to be the guide to help them to navigate what that looks like. So the last thing, I wonder if I have this because I didn't put it on for tomorrow's. Hello, Megan. Are you making it easy for people to buy? And I will be the first to admit, in case you're thinking, but Susan, I can't get on your list. But Susan, like, I'm not, it's not working. Like I did this, like for me, like you actually are trying to engage with me, right? Hello, that's me, right? I have made it very difficult to do business with me. I fully admit that. And so I'm sharing this because I want you to know that it is okay if that is you too, but recognize if that is you, right? And if you're willing to let go of it, I would invite you to do that and to not hold judgment or shame or blame or guilt, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, right? All of that, that's just going to hamper you from being able to make forward progress as quickly as possible, right? Don't keep looking back. Just be in the present moment and look forward to the future because that's where change happens, right? Change happens forward. And the interesting thing is that as we change, our experience of the past changes. It's an actual scientific thing. It's called memory. Our memories are not static. Our memories change because our experience of our present and our future state is constantly informing our past. And that's why our memory will change over time. That's why our experience and how we see what happened before shifts and changes. It's never absolute. And that is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful gift. It's a blessing that sometimes we forget about because we're so busy just rehearsing the same old, because we're not allowing ourselves to be changed in the present moment to inform our future and allowing that change to then go backwards and inform the past in a very different way. We're doing it the hard way. We're trying to change the past by looking at the past. The past only has changed when we change ourselves. I don't know why that needed to come out right now because that's clearly not it's not part of my notes. It's not part of my notes. But that above and beyond is a critical piece for us, I think, to understand and to believe in order for us to take actions, right? So a confused mind does not buy. Make it easy for people to buy, and they will. They will buy if it's easy. And then it is your job to nurture your existing leads, to believe that when people have put up their hand and they have joined your list, they have decided to hit follow, subscribe, any of the things on our social media platforms and the different ways that people can connect with us, that they have done so with intention. They have done so with purpose. They have done so with the leaning of their heart in saying, I want to know what it is that you have to offer me. And I might not be ready to buy yet, or maybe they have bought. And for you to think, well, that's it. They're a one-shot wonder. Like they're not going to buy from me ever again because that's all that they need. Well, really? Because people change. Their situations change, sometimes in the blink of an eye. And for you to exclude them simply because you're so focused on, let me just get a new customer, a new customer, a new customer. And then what am I, chopped liver? Like, go and help those people too. So don't ignore your existing leads. They're 97% of your market right now. You need to speak very specifically to the people who want to buy so that they can buy. Number two, sell more. Be unapologetic about making your offers, because if they change lives, which they do, then somebody out there does not have their life changed because you are not willing to speak up, because you're not willing to share your offer. That is terrible. And then number three, make sure that you are clear on your pathway. Make sure that you are, you have a candy house, use candy. That's your trail, right? Don't use bread. They're not going to eat that. If they want candy, they're going to look for candy, right? And I'm using that as an analogy for like Hansel and Gretel getting to the candy house. They got to the candy house because they followed the gumdrops. They followed the candies. And because they followed the candies, lo and behold, guess where they ended up? Inside the oven, right? They got themselves into hot water. Now, that's probably not the best analogy, but it was the most vivid that I could come up with in order to help us to understand that when you are not congruent, when you are not creating alignment between how you speak about your offers, what it is that you actually provide people that are paid, and then you're giving people all of this free stuff that makes no sense to how they would actually get to work with you, you're not attracting the people who want to buy. Right? That's a whole different problem. For today's episode conversation, we already talked about the fact that you have people that have put up their hand and said, hey, can you help me? I want more of what it is that you have to offer. And depending on what it is, they're going to be ready to buy at a different point in their journey. But don't neglect them. So if you already have an email list, a network, right? People who would gladly help support you. You have a following on any social media platform. You have people who have bought from you before, existing customers or clientele. Any of that, this is the video that you needed to watch, right? And if you joined late, go back and rewatch the replay. If any of those fit into who you are and what it is that you're currently dealing with, then the fact that you have those things indicates that you do not need more leads. You need to be able to work those leads and understand who's on the lead list, so to speak, right? That if you're not communicating regularly enough with those folks and understanding how each of those platforms play, that you're not actually playing the right game. In fact, you might be sidelined. You might be on the bleachers. You might be just observing. And I'm inviting you in this conversation today to get on the field, to actually play, to get a little bloody, to skin your knees, to stub your toe, right? That it's not always going to be roses and sunshine and unicorn poop and just like, this was so easy. Can it be easy? Yes. But oftentimes the getting out of our own way is hard. It is hard. And sometimes we got to smack ourselves to get out, right? So that's what we talked about today. I want you to grab my free resource, which is my 6-figure blueprint. It is over at susanmcveigh.com/blueprint. It is the exact strategies that I use to create my first 6 figures online in 6 months without knowing a lick about online digital marketing. And it is the same strategies that clients have used to create 6, 7, and even 8-figure businesses. It works. Okay. On the second page of that, I think you still have an option to grab a bonus training. It is not free. It is very low cost. And for you to be able to grab that, it walks you through in more detail the exact resource that you're getting. If you are making money in your business, but it doesn't seem like you can get ahead, right? That the more you make, the more you spend, and you're wondering why. And simply making more money, you just still don't have enough. And it's not even a number in your bank account. It's something in here and something in here. I want you to grab my ebook. Again, this one is not free, but again, lower cost. My ABCs of Building Wealth ebook. Go and grab that at susanmcveigh.com/ gotta move my widget here, /wealth. So again, there should be a little message bar here. Grab your free 6-figure blueprint, susanmcveigh.com/blueprint. If you have any problems whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. DM me over on Instagram. That's probably going to be the easiest. Or you can send me an email, info@susanmcveigh.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you again.